So welcome Abdelhamid and Priya. We'll just wait for a few more people to join, give them a bit of time, and then we will kick off. How are you today?
Hi, how are you doing? Thank you.
Very, very well. Good to have you, Abdelhamid.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Let's hope we get a nice round number and we will kick off. Either way, we will kick off in a few minutes. We had about 40 confirmed people. Let's see how much actually make it. Are you all in the office still, working from home today? Working from the car, maybe? All right. Working from home. Isn't that a joy that we are able to do that? All right, we've got a few more. Khuram, welcome from home. Working hard from the comfort of the home. That's always nice. Negwan or Nejwan, however, hope one of them is correct. Welcome. Good afternoon or late afternoon. Let's see if I can see everybody. You're welcome, Khuram. All right. I think we will start and trust that whoever's on the way will get here safely. I wish I could see more of you. I only see 3 here, but I'll keep my eye on the participant list, and Hilal in the background doing the tech and magic work, supporting me, will also please keep an eye on the participants. And thanks for your support. Well, welcome everybody. We know it's a late afternoon one. We aimed for this time because we knew Fridays are maybe somewhat in some areas, depending on where you're calling from, maybe a bit quieter. We are able to start thinking of what we'd like to learn and what we'd like to topics we'd like to dip into, and today is coaching for you all. So welcome, and we're happy to host you. The title of today is how to make the most of your coaching program, one-to-one to be specific, but some of this will apply to coaching in general. And we're excited to hear from you as well a bit about what you know throughout. And let me start by introducing myself. My name is Bashar Faouri. I'm a leadership coach here at Kaplan Professional Middle East. I'm going on my 3rd year at Kaplan here. And my role consists mainly of coaching and training, mostly coaching. And I also design and deliver coaching and training programs with my colleagues and my team. I'm also a life coach. I would say usually outside of my job, I'm a life coach. But to be very frank with you, the life coaching or leadership coaching, I show up to my clients, whether they're in organizations or outside, based on what they need. The tools and the focus is what changes essentially, but more or less the process is the same. Welcome, Mohammed Omar. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, that's me. And as I said, in the background, Hilal, our tech guru, he's from our operations department, is supporting us to make sure that you see what you see, you hear what you hear, and that I also don't miss any of your chat engagements, your questions. And he makes sure that I also don't stop the recording, which I always do, and I forget to put it back on. So he's there to make sure that I do my job well, I guess. So thanks for the support, Hilal. And at Kaplan here, Professional Middle East, our office are in Dubai. Our headquarters are in Dubai. We have offices in Abu Dhabi as well as in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. We serve a range of clients from private and public sector, and more we are seeing in the region in the last 7 to 8 years, the coaching demand and the desire to provide coaching to leaders, but not only leaders, to be very honest, also professionals at early stages of their professional development. It is becoming more and more common and more in need. So that is music to my ears and the ears of many other coaches, but also the clients because of the value that they can get out of coaching. So I invite you all to use the chat freely as your space to drop in any questions. And as you may have heard before, when it comes to questions, there are no silly questions. There are no stupid questions. So drop any question you have in the chat at any time, whether relevant to what I'm talking to in the moment. If you want me to address something or answer something, because I might not. Today is 1 hour and there's only so much depth I can go into. So please feel free to drop in the questions. We will have a Q&A towards the end where we will look at all the questions that you might have dropped in the chat in case we miss any of them to answer them. But I also do appreciate your questions ongoing. I may be able to answer them then and there on the spot in a better fashion. Firstly, to kind of utilize the chat a little bit, what I'd love for you to drop in the chat is, what's your name? I can kind of see your names more or less. So what's important, I guess, is your name, where you're calling from, the city you're calling from, and what is your role? Or what is it that you do? Or where is it that you work? What industry? Give us an idea of that. So name, where you're calling from, and what do you do or where do you work? We'd love to learn more about who we're talking to. So as you drop it in the chat, I will share a little bit about what we're going to do today. And Khurram Ali Mubashir from Pakistan, senior lecturer and have worked for Kaplan as well. Well, yeah, we work with a lot of trainers and coaches, and you might have been there when I wasn't there, or we might have crossed paths. Who knows? It's a busy environment we have here at Kaplan, isn't it? So welcome, Khurram, and thanks for sharing that. Just so the rest know, what we're doing is just sharing name, where you're calling from, and what is it that you do? What is your role? All right, so today what we're going to cover in short, in a summary, is we're going to talk about the relationship of coach and coachee. It is a unique kind of relationship. We're going to talk about how we can optimize that relationship to help the client ultimately. I'm hoping that is one day or soon. So we're gonna look at how to improve or how to get most value from the lens of the relationship between the coach and coachee, and then the process outside of the sessions, because It's a whole different conversation to be talking about with what happens within the sessions, and we leave that to the wonderful coaches that you will work with in your future to guide that process. We might touch on some things inside the sessions, but we're talking about before and after and how to prepare for a coaching sessions that is coming up for you. And then finally, how to use that preparation as much as possible to bring clarity. And then in the end, like I said, we will end with a Q&A to give you the space to ask any questions you have. What I will also add here that you may like to hear, our wonderful audience, is that for those participants that are present with us today and that will finish the webinar with us today, towards the end, we have a little surprise for you. Some of you might know what that is, and you will be able to avail, two of you will be able to avail a nice little gift towards the end. We might not announce who they are, but whoever they are, we need to make sure that you are with us for the full webinar. And that you engage with us as much as possible. We'd love to hear from you as we go. All right, so I will do a little bit of some innocent stereotyping for the room here that we have, and I will assume that I can put you all in two buckets, in two different groups, and each group will be wearing a different hat. And when we say we're wearing a different hat, mean you will have a role, or you will be different than the other group with a different hat. I will explain what I mean. I will be wearing the host hat for the duration of this hour, and sometimes I will be maybe wearing the Joker hat to keep the environment light as we learn. I love to keep things light and enjoyable for my clients and audience like yourselves. So I will wear that hat and shift between those hats. As for you guys, I am going to make an assumption, and please forgive me for making assumptions. Some of you will be wearing this hat throughout this hour, where these are the quiet learners. They're usually undercover, and I feel like there's a lot of you here. Undercover, they're here to come in, take as much learning as possible, and leave undetected. Raise your hand or go give us a reaction if that's you. And if that's you, that's okay. We will invite you to jump to wear the other hat if possible. However, that is also fine. Some people love to come in, get some learning, get some insights, and leave like they were never there. That's Khuram. That's Khuram there. Sometimes that's me, depending on what day of the week and what hour of the week. And then there's another group with a different role and purpose, I guess. It takes a bit of boldness, it takes a bit of courage, because the hat they wear is not the coolest, is not a very hip hat. And this might be a few of you guys. Or you might, some of the people wearing this hat might be bold enough to wear this hat for a moment or two and engage and fully participate in this webinar. Yes, it is a webinar, but it doesn't mean that there is a need to, there isn't a rule against participating, whether it's through the chat or through unmuting yourself and jumping in when and if you want. So as you can see, this hat requires a bit of boldness. It's not the coolest hat, like I said. However, this is a person fully engaging in the sports, active participant. And the reason why I love this image is because it very much brings the point that I will again and again probably allude to in our webinar about coaching. Leadership coaching, life coaching, all types of coaching require a full participation. It is not a solo performance by the coach coming like might sometimes a teacher might do, or a professor. They come in, they deliver a whole lecture, and then people consume as much information as possible. In coaching, it's very different. It is requires the active participation and the full participation of the coachee, the client, as well as the coach. That's why they call it a co-creative partnership. So, to also learn a bit more about who we're talking to, we have a poll that we have set up for you, which Hilal will shoot out for you all to see. And the question is, have you had one-to-one coaching previously? It is a yes or no question, very simple to see which of you have experienced coaching before, to know if we have a 50-50 split, if maybe none of you had coaching before, or maybe if all of you have coaching before, so that we know what to focus on and who we're talking to and where you are when it comes to your knowledge of coaching. So without a further ado, Hilal, let me know if you can shoot out that poll real quick. All right. Have you had a one-to-one coaching, I would say, program before, not just a session? Because it's what I will say here is that in the industry, coaches always give a chemistry or demo session before you even commit to anything. It's part of how the industry works because of the nature of coaching itself. Me as a client, I need to experience coaching, learn how it works, learn how my coaching works, get to feel it and experience it before I am able to commit to a program or a coach, right? So the reason why I say program, not a session, because a lot of people might have had sessions before, but maybe not a full program. And from what I can see is most of you here have not had one-to-one coaching before, which is brilliant. I love fresh minds when it comes to this topic. And I think you will hopefully walk away with some understanding, even though the topic today is not about an introduction to coaching, but through the lens of how to get the most of coaching, you will get a bit of what coaching is, a little bit of how it works. And I've already shared with you a couple of insights as to how the process works. All right, brilliant. So we've got 5 answers. We'll close the poll in a few seconds. I don't know if anybody else will answer. Just give them a few seconds, see if we have a yes, perhaps. All right, so we are about to close the poll. And there we go. All right. So the results, without having to share them with you on screen, 5 out of 5 of the people who answered have not had one-to-one coaching before. Just so you know, maybe 2 of you out there or the one that's not answered have had. Either way, the majority hasn't. So let's start with what is the definition of coaching so that we have a good understanding of a foundation to continue the rest of the conversation on. I will actually provide you the opportunity to tell me in your words, perhaps, unmute yourself or use the chat. What is coaching in your words? I'll give you a minute here if any of you would like to respond and let us know in your own words. We're not looking for a written out definition. What is coaching to you? What is your understanding of coaching? We'll just give a minute here before we move on. What we're doing, if you haven't heard, is we're inviting you to tell us what is coaching to you. What do you know about it? Even if it's wrong, if it's not complete, if it's one word, or if you're completely guessing. I trust in that guessing people get something right. Teaching a course. Muhammad Omer, you say teaching a course. All right. What else? What else we have? Do we have any other answers? Any varying answers, different answers?
Hi,
So,
Bashar. Hi, Bashar. This is Priya Mohan.
hi.
Hi. Coaching for me, it's a kind of giving an expertise support to a
Mhm.
client or the people who are seeking such kind of support for attaining a particular goal in their personal life or their professional life.
Brilliant. I will underline the sentence when you started saying the support to achieve personal or professional goals. I underline that. The first part, I will help clarify how it's different. Anybody else? Thank you for, Priya, thank you for wearing that awkward hat we just showed and for jumping in with your voice, not just with the chat. Thank you for being that bold, courageous one.
Thank you, Bashar.
Ram says coaching is a collaborative process aimed to achieve their personal and professional goals. Absolutely. Somebody's been reading up on coaching a little bit, or maybe you're the one who's had coaching but didn't answer that question. Either way, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. All right, brilliant. Well, there's various definitions out there, and because there are so many out there, the definition can maybe seem very broad and vague or not very clear to people. Some of them focus on what is the purpose of it. Some of them focus on what is the impact. Some of them focus on what are the potential of it. So an ICF is the more like the governing body of the coaching industry to this day. There are others in other markets, but this is more the global and US-based one. And their definition is it is a partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. And what I will highlight here is the partnering and as well as the thought-provoking. If it is not a partnership of equal weight, the coach and the coachee show up and both take a fully participative role in it, it does not work the same. It does not work. It does not even qualify probably as a coaching conversation. It becomes more of a mentorship or a teaching conversation. If I show up as supposedly a coach and just do all the work or provide all the learning or the advice or whatever it is, it stops being coaching. So it has to be a partnership. And I'll talk a lot today about partnership because it is one of the key differences between a teaching relationship and a coaching relationship. And then it's supposed to be thought-provoking. It's not a nice conversation that you're supposed to be having with someone. It shouldn't be a nice conversation. It should be challenging and make you think differently. And for it to be thought-provoking in that way, it needs to follow a certain type of also setup or a unique type of relationship to make it thought-provoking. Right? So, but even better, I will share with you a definition that has come through another coach in the industry. I found this online and I'll reference his name because it is a brilliant definition that simplifies it all the way down to what it is at the core. And it is a conversation. Simply put, is it certain type of conversation where one person, the coach, is skilled at making conversations helpful to the other person. The whole focus of the coach is to use their skill, the process that they've learned, and the techniques and the tools that they have to make it helpful for the other person. It's solely focused on the other person. And that's why part of the reason why it becomes powerful. And the coach makes it helpful by creating the environment, the setup, and designing the relationship, designing the process for the coachee to create insights for them, new information. And that's not by giving them the insight, it's by creating the environment that makes them think for themselves and find solutions. And then in the end, after each session, there's always actions and commitments. So the coach's role here is to help the coachee, the client, find the right type of actions and commitments they need to make based on the insights that they've just discovered, and put them into practice. And then, as I always say to my clients, whether win, fail, or succeed at this action that you've done, it's not what we're looking for. We're looking to come back and take the learning from it. And that's the thread that I like to focus on, is the learning throughout the journey. Anyway, but I love this beautiful definition. It is a conversation that is focused on one person to develop and grow. As simple as that. All right. Any questions? I will keep just checking in if there are any questions as we move along. And the person who's coined this definition wrote a beautiful article on it. His name is Mark Davidson from a company called Coachwise, just to give them the credit due for defining it in such a simple manner. All right. So essentially what we're saying is that coaching is an interactive process, like I mentioned, not a solo performance, right? And that makes it a unique type of partnership. There are many different types of partnerships. There's business partnerships, there's relationship partnership, intimate partnerships, and a lot of them, even though they are partnerships, they still lack a key element, which a coaching relationship does have and actually counts on. It is built on this pillar, and that is something we call a designed alliance. From the name itself, you can guess that this takes a different shape, this relationship, because it is designed. It is not left like a partnership. Sometimes even intimate relationships, they just form on the go. Maybe once you get to the marriage part, you design a bit of how the relationship has to be like, and what agreements you need to do, and how will we deal with problems and challenges. But initially, a lot of partnerships, they just go with the flow. This is the opposite of that. This is all you design. You take the time and effort to consciously design how coach and coachee are going to work together. It's like having your own dedicated AI. You know how the ChatGPT and AI works. The more you feed it feedback and information on what you like and don't like, the better output it can give you. In the case of AI, it's output, it's answering questions. In the case of a coach, it learns better about how to work with you and how to ask you better questions and how to challenge you better, and direct you perhaps or guide you better if you are able to feed the coach with this information about you, with how you like to work and don't work. And as you go, you keep visiting this, what we call a container, which is you form this container by designing your alliance. And the more you come back and revisit this container, and along the duration of the program, you are improving the space that you work in between you and your coach so that it serves you ultimately. All right. All right. Any questions? Designed alliance. All right. So why design an alliance? Najwan, you wanted to say something? Is that, or did I? No? Okay. Feel free to jump in, people. Like we designed in the beginning, I said, feel free to jump in, raise your hand, drop in the chat. All good. All right. So why not just go with the flow? Some things work when you do that. Some relationships are fine and nice when you do that. Well, yeah, these are maybe friendships that work because they're not focused on developing a person. They don't have a purpose that is the betterment or the development and growth of a person, right? But when it becomes the purpose of it is the growth and development of the coachee, then there needs to be some parameters. So the first thing that when I meet with my coach, the first thing that we do, or one of the first things that we do, is let us define what are our parameters, right? What is it that you do, coach, and what is it that you don't do, so that you can know what to expect. I see here from Quram in the chats, why and how to design an alliance, how to check the alliance we have designed is appropriate. Does this come with experience, or there's a criteria out there from which we can benchmark? Amazing question. I love the thought process behind it. I am tackling your first part, why and how to design a client, as much as I can for today. And then how to check the alliance is a simple thing, which I will also touch on as well. If I don't, I want you to call me out and tell me. I don't want to forget. But generally, you meet with the coach in the beginning, let's say, usually, and that's when you design your alliance before you jump into the coaching itself. You define the parameters of how you want to work together. What is the coach will explain to you what they do and what they don't do, and where their boundaries end and where they start, and what's their role specifically, and what they expect from you. For example, I expect from you to show up on time, and for us to take the hour, and for us to show up ready, and for us to be using Zoom, for example, or these are parameters. Or if we're meeting in person, when and where. All these are parameters, or count as parameters that can help. Ultimately, all the parts of designing an alliance are for the coachee to end in a place where they are comfortable, they know what to expect, not at every second, of course, but they know what to expect, they know what they're in for, and they can take full advantage of the relationship. They're not left questioning, oh, can I do this? Are we able to do that? When are we supposed to meet? Why is the coach not challenging me enough? Can I ask them to a bit more? All these things are part of the conversation that you need to have with your coach. The second thing is to establish communication channels. How are we going to communicate? Are we going to use WhatsApp, phone call? Do we just use Google Calendar to set up our meetings? Or do I send you a link every now and then, a week before your, the end of the month? Whatever it is, we need to establish how we're going to be communicating together. And how often, because sometimes if you show up to a coaching program, some people may assume, if it is not designed, that you can contact your coach at any moment, at any time. But of course, the coach will come and say, well, we need to establish some communication channels and parameters. So here's what I think we should do. And then you come with what you need, and then you find the middle ground that you agree on, an agreement, an alliance, right? So communication channels. The next one is clarifying expectations, which is a very, very important one. You come in a lot of the times to any relationship, to any encounter, with a lot of assumptions. And it is part of the coach's role to invite you always to clear these assumptions and clarify, what are your expectations? What is it that you come here expecting from me as your coach? You might say it's obvious. I came here for some help, for some support to achieve my goals, but asking the questions and letting it be answered by yourself is very important, because you start building for yourself what are your expectations. And maybe at some point you'll say, well, my expectations here is that that every session I have a transformational experience that I see change in me every session, for example. The coach will tell you, well, that's not my role. My job here is to provide you with the space and environment and process. And then there's no guarantees as to what happens in terms of transformation. That is up to us both, and up to you what you do outside of the sessions, right? So they clarify when it comes to an expectation like that. They clarify when it comes to an expectations of always being available. I thought you're my coach. You're always supposed to be available. Well, yeah, but that's a bit disempowering if every problem and every challenge that you're going to face, you're going to call your coach. That's not how the relationship is meant to work. So these are just two really simple examples of expectations. We carry these expectations everywhere we go. And if they're not addressed and brought out, they guide our behavior, and they stop being assumptions, which is the next point, and they start becoming expectations. I assume that a coach's role is this, and that, that they're supposed to support me throughout my life or to improve my life. So I expect them to be available, right? So the design alliance clears all these things that are unspoken and makes them crystal clear for both coach and coachee to work with. I don't like to think of them as setting limitations. On the contrary, there are agreements in specific areas that allow us the freedom to work together freely without having to wonder or make assumptions or get it wrong. And then in the end, I touched on this container. You're designing how this container is going to look like and how it's meant to serve you. And it's adaptive. I use that word because every session the coach will likely ask you, so how are we doing? Or every couple of sessions, how's the container doing? Anything we need to change? We agreed that you want me to be very challenging to you in the first few sessions, or maybe the opposite, be very easy and or soft and challenge you a little bit, not too much pressure, and go slow. Maybe that's the agreement. All right, so how are we doing now? Can we up the ante a little bit? Since my role as a coach is to challenge you and challenge your thinking, can we improve on it? Can we level up that challenge? So the coach will regularly check in on the designed alliance and the agreements that you've made to see if there's anything that needs to change. Why? Because you are changing in the process. You meet with your coach over a period, typically, if you're having a program, between 6 to 12 months, more or less. So you're changing as a person and changing your behaviors and your sometimes your assumptions, your beliefs, and your expectations are changing. So with that, we need to change the container as we go to still serve you, right? And it's the reason why I say it's purpose-driven. It's based on the need of the coachee. So what do we need to change now to better serve you? Since what we used to talk about before has now become simple terms, easy. You've learned that, you've done it. So what are we doing next? What do you need from me to change, right? So let's see, Khuram, here you say, so it means that process is to make it collaborative and we have to make it comfortable and convenient to coachee. So he or she feels it is a conducive environment and allows them to interact freely. And absolutely, it is to free the coachee and the coach to work and really focus on really what's there in the moment, which is what the client needs, what they want to work on, and the line of questioning and the awareness that is coming from the answers for the coachee. So what I would only just say is that it's not about comfort. There is an element of supporting the client as much as possible and then challenging them. It needs to be a balance of both. But the aim is not comfort. But I think I know what you mean when you say that, is that it's to make it conducive, is to make it serving the client. And serving in this case, since the purpose is to their development and growth, is to challenge them and to make them think and not to have just a nice conversation. All right. Yes. All right. So I kind of assumed you meant that. Brilliant. So some of the questions real quick here that coach might ask you, I share these even though they might be coming from your coach, but they raise or they circle around points that you can also bring and you can ask your coach when you meet them, because they allude to agreements that you need to make, such as what unspoken expectations do you have for this partnership? They make you start thinking of, I'm here having 1, 2, 3 expectations. I'm here to thinking that you're going to help me in 1, 2, 3. And then it allows that conversation to materialize into clarity and correction if there is the wrong expectation. How much time do you want to dedicate to us working together? Very important one. Can be assumed and not talked about. But I need to know as a coach how much my client is willing to invest every month in doing the work. Because the work is not just the coaching session, that 1 hour session. The work is what happens in between the sessions. How much is the client willing to commit in terms of time outside of it is very important. How do you see our touch points and engagements taking place? Basically, how often do we stay in touch and for what purposes? What processes and mechanisms to communicate together? How do you want me to engage with you when you're very busy? What do you know about how to resolve conflict, and how do we resolve conflict if we ever face it? It's like setting yourself up for success later. We know we might face conflict. We know we might disagree. We know you might lose motivation. We assume you might get derailed. What do we do then? It's already designing the container for later, almost, for all these possible situations that are likely to happen, because we're human, right? So all very good, powerful questions to start with, to start the conversation with, and to start thinking in that way, because all these will ultimately serve you as a client. So, all right. So what makes a person, this next bit is the client. How can we focus on the client being the best client they can be? What makes a person more or less coachable, you think? Anybody have some ideas? You can use the chat again. You can just mute yourself. Any way you decide to answer. Of course, you might be asking yourself, what do you mean coachable? More able to get value of the coaching that is being, provided from the coach, or able to take more out of it, what makes the person more likely to experience transformation from working with a coach? What makes them more coachable? And these are sets of traits or habits that a person has, right? Just to make it a little bit more focused. What are the traits or qualities of a person that they have or that they need to make them more and more coachable, you think? If, based on what we've talked about coaching so far. I give you a hint, more hints. I think you guys probably know. How open to feedback? Yes, absolutely. Being open is a very important one. How willing am I to, when the time comes, to take real, honest feedback from my clients, even if it sounds like, hey, you're not taking this seriously. We're coming here every day and we're having nice conversations, but you're not doing the work outside. You come every time and you say, well, I didn't do the assignment. I didn't do the homework. I didn't do what I said I commit to. And then a few sessions go by, the coach is bound to come and give you honest feedback about that. As an example, it's like, hey, what is this? I don't want to assume you're not taking it seriously, but what is going on there? Here's what I'm seeing. They will tell you what they see honestly, and this is feedback that very few people in your life might give you, the raw and honest feedback, because their sole purpose is to your development and growth and for you to reach your potential. So it has to come from a place of non-judgment and openness. So you, to be more coachable, need to be open to receive that. Be open to be okay with it. Other things can be positive attitudes, self-awareness, absolutely, readiness to learn. Yes, yes, and yes, and yes. But I'm wearing that weird hat we showed in the beginning very well. I salute you with my hat for this. Here are some of the traits. Action orientation. Hey, we're going to talk. We're going to discover insights, very likely, in our conversations. You're going to start shifting your perspective, realizing things. And then we're going to ask you to do something or to stop doing something. Maybe it's not always about doing more. But you're going to commit to something, an action. If there's no action orientation, the insights are not going to be put into practice, right? So action orientation is very important in coaching. It's all about putting the learning into action. And then curiosity, to reflect as well, and to ask yourself and to ask the coach and to just wonder. observe yourself, how you're behaving. And a lot of the times this will be part of the coaching work that you do with your coach, is to reflect on your behavior, to reflect on your patterns of thinking, for example, to make you more aware of yourself. And then having the view of cup half full. It's not, some of us are optimists, some of us are pessimists. And fine, there's a purpose for either, for both in the world. But when it comes to your own development, if not in the beginning, you see that you have potential to grow and develop and to transform into and to achieve anything you want. If you don't have that optimism to grow and develop, then it won't work. Maybe as simple as that. Is you need to have that optimism and a bit of that positive outlook that I can improve things, that things can develop, that I can change. Even though sometimes in the beginning people have that belief, but they're not able to really act from it. They come and they see the coach and they tell the coach, yes, I know I need the support. I'm not sure how. I kind of have very limiting beliefs telling me I can't change and all that. But something deep down inside got them to the point where they are speaking to their coach. And that's enough, is that sometimes the optimism is guiding you, but maybe it's not producing all your thoughts, let's say. And that's also part of the work that you do with your coach, is becoming more aware of your thoughts, shift them into a positive framework over time. And then optimism becomes a byproduct of the coaching as well, for improving that optimism. And then in the end, the commitment to do the work, but more importantly as well, the commitment to the process. Coaching is a process, guys. And it's not I'm going to come in and provide you coaching and go out. Fine, some people get one coaching sessions or a couple and they get value from that. But coaching essentially is about behavior change. And behavior change happens over a period of time, right? See, that's why typical one-on-one coaching programs are 6 to 12 months, because you want to see behavior change over a period of time, not a hit and run. You want that change to also sustain and stay. So the commitment to the process, and this process comes from the coach. They're the specialists. This is what they're trained. This is the tools that they have. They bring this process with them. So in a way, it's a commitment that it's a process, it's long-term, but also the trust in the coach and the process that things maybe are not happening right now and changing right now, but they will. We have started the process towards change, and that they will come. The insights will come, the change will come. All right. Let's see, did I miss anything here? Other things can be positive attitude. Yeah, I've read that also. Okay. So last, I guess, few things here before we end. As Malcolm X has brilliantly been quoted saying, the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. For you to have a piece of that future, you need to prepare, plan. What do you want? What do you want to get out of it? The same applies for your coaching. You need to start by reflecting on questions like, what is it that I want most in my life or career? What is it that I really want? If there's one thing that I want to change and improve, what is that? Ask yourself these open questions, reflective questions, to help you draw on the changes that you want to make, or the vision that you will achieve if you were to make these changes. If I knew I couldn't fail, what would I most want to accomplish or have? These questions might allude you to a potential or something in your life that you're not living up to, that you would love to accomplish, that maybe things are standing in your way. Such as maybe the question before last alludes to what could stand in your way is our own self sometimes, right? Do I hold myself back, and how? Sometimes it is us that we stand in our own way. So these questions are powerful to get you to start thinking of what are the areas of work that might be important to me to work with a coach? Do I really need support from a coach to help me achieve my highest potential? Am I hungry for that, to achieve more for myself, or to get more out of myself? These are important questions to reflect on. A renowned coach in the coaching industry named Steve Chandler shares a parable about this. And he says, man tells his coach that he wants to create a rocket to fly to the moon. So they get going, working together for months and months to help achieve this goal. At some point, the coach asks his clients, why is this important? Why are you on this mission? Why are you inspired to create this rocket and go to the moon? And the client simply responds, well, to get away from my wife. So it's a funny anecdote or parable to point to one thing, is that get clear on what you want. Get clear on your goals and intentions, and always share them with your coach when you're working on them. And that lack of clarity can send you working on something for months, and then you realize, well, actually what I'm working on is just to avoid something, or I wasn't very clear on the goals and what I want to achieve. I found that hilarious, but also so very true. All right, we got 5 minutes. We can do this. Some do's and don'ts real quick. Some of this you will sound familiar from what we've talked about. Show up and be prepared. Of course, be present. You're always there, fully present with the coach to get the most out of the questions that are being there, and the thoughts that are coming from you as well. You're sitting with what is coming to you then and there. But the showing up prepared bit is to always have a topic to talk about. Ask yourself before every session, if there's one thing that I could work on and I want to focus on or talk about, what would that be? And that's what you come to the coaching with. If you come to the coaching with, oh, well, there's this and that, I'm facing these problems and challenges, you're really making the coach's job very difficult, and you're making it difficult for yourself. Try to get that clarity, at least. Let me choose this one most important thing to work on. Be open and transparent. Always share what is going on with you with your coach, and they will guide you. All right, this is important, or they will tell you, well, they will help you get clarity on whether that's what you're sharing is helpful to the relationship, to the process. You will figure things out, but always bring them to the table. Like I said, trust the process and follow through after. Always follow through with the actions and commitments that you commit to. Sometimes we don't. Life derails us. Life gets in the way. That's fine. But more often than not, always try to follow through with your commitments. Be active and intentional with things. This is ultimately to serve you and your goals. It's not what the coach wants. Well, sometimes the clients come in there like, well, I don't know, actually. I don't have anything to talk about. What do you think, coach? And I'm like, well, if there's nothing for us to talk about, I can do something, an activity to help draw out something. But if there's nothing that you want to address, maybe things are fine. Maybe we don't need to have this session. So there needs to be an intentionality from the client for the process to work. And be okay with discomfort. This is very important, because it's not going to be a nice conversation, a happy, fun, nice conversation. It's not meant to be that. You're going to have to be okay with being uncomfortable at times, which leads to the next don't aim for nice conversations. If they feel like nice conversations you have with your friends, they're not coaching conversations. So aim for them to be challenging. And if they're nice conversations, tell your coach, it's like, this feels very easy. This feels very light. Maybe we need to up the challenge a little bit. And don't focus on efficiency. It's not about fast. Let's get things done quickly. Transformation and change work takes time and takes presence. And for you to be present and take things as they come, you need to slow down and follow the process. You can't just like beat things out or beat the insights out of your brain, right? And like I was saying earlier, don't just wing things. Always try to get something, an intention behind what you're doing and what you want to do. And as the saying goes from Star Wars, use the Force, Luke. don't use the force. It's not about forcing things. It's not about forcing insight or change. With clarity and with insight and following a process, things change over time, not by forcing them. And then don't be passive. Like the example I shared earlier is like if you show up to a session and there's nothing to talk about and you're expecting the coach to carry the weight of the conversation, all of it by himself or herself, that is you not being a full participant in it. You are being a viewer, a watcher, right, in that relationship. And that doesn't work for coaching conversation. All right. So I was able to cover the slide in time. However, just one thing before we do the Q&A, for those who stick around, we're going to have a Q&A in a moment. I just want to learn from you what you've thought of this webinar. So Hilal will kindly just put up a quick survey, just a dipstick of a survey to learn from you, was this useful or not? So the question will come up in a moment. And I'm not sure, is there a possibility for a long answer? Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that. So we invite you to just answer the poll, the second poll of the day and the final one, before I open the floor to you guys for Q&A. And maybe I have some time here to spend if you have any questions that I haven't answered. We'll be more than happy to. I'll just leave the poll open until we get some responses. Hopefully all of you get to respond. Nice not to hear myself talk anymore. All right. Survey, guys, just for those who maybe have not seen it, just directing your attention to the poll that we just put up. If you can take a minute to quickly answer that. Has this webinar been insightful for you or not? Of course, this information gives us the ability to take decisions on what we do for future webinars. For submit button is not active. Akram, that's a bummer. I think yeah, I've never heard that before. Can I send it here? Yes, you can. Hilal, do you see a submit button from your side or an issue with that? Maybe you can have a look. But yes, you can. If someone has answered. Was that you, Quran? No, Hilal, all good. Should be working fine. All right, brilliant. So we're getting some answers to the chat, and somebody answered through the poll. So with that said, we'll keep it open in case anybody else answers, and in case you want to stick around for any questions, please feel free. I'm here for that, and it is my pleasure to share any information that I might have missed or maybe didn't cover in more detail.